Thank you for joining us for our virtual CU Anschutz Wellness Series, Happy and Healthy Hour. We are thrilled that you are taking the time today to connect with the CU Anschutz alumni community and focus on your wellness. I'm Dr. Jan Keefe, CU School of Medicine, class of 1982, and I am the immediate past president of the Medical Alumni Association. For those of you who are attending your first Happy and Healthy Hour, this series was developed to provide practical tips to support your self-care as health professionals. This series has covered topics from sleep health to positive effects of animal connections to burnout in healthcare professionals. Today, we bring our campus expertise on a topic that affects all of us: leaning into challenges and embracing opportunity. This evening, we will learn how losing on Survivor and Shark Tank grew Dr. Edna Ma's resilience and learn about steps you can take to lean into challenges and grow your confidence. I now have the privilege of introducing tonight's speaker, Edna Ma, MD. Dr. Edna Ma is a native of Utah. However, she grew up in Colorado. She attended CU Boulder for undergrad, completing her medical degree at CU Anschutz Medical Campus in 2003, and went on to complete her residency at UCLA's Department of Anesthesiology. She is a board-certified anesthesiologist working and living in Los Angeles. Besides being a fantastic doctor, wife, and mother of two, in her spare time, she has taken an idea and built a business from scratch, Dr. Edna's Bare Ease. She has encountered many obstacles along the way, including ending up on a deserted island. Her journey has led to opportunities on multiple TV shows, including Shark Tank, The Doctors, and Survivor. I can't forget to mention that she has written a bilingual Chinese children's book inspired by her son after he enrolled in a Chinese or a Mandarin immersive school. This book celebrates friendship and cultural diversity. And now let's hear from Dr. Edna Ma.
Thank you so much, Keith, Dr. Keith. My name is Edna Ma. Thank you so much for giving me some of your precious time and letting me share my story with you. This is what I look like before I went on to the Shark Tank and got to swim with the sharks. And tonight, like Dr. Keith said, I'll be talking about leaning into challenges and embracing opportunity. And that will be told in the context of Survivor and how I wrote some children's books. I'll be talking about how challenges are disguised as opportunities and self-doubt and imposter syndrome, and using positive reframing in all these opportunities and failures of mine. If any questions pop up, feel free to message, put the questions in the chat box, and we'll make sure to answer them. But if things pop up later on, feel free to find me on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook at the same handle, Edna Ma MD. I'm what you call a ABC, which is American-born Chinese in this context. That means for me, English was a second language. I didn't speak English until I started going to school. We spoke Cantonese at home with my parents. My parents were immigrants, came over to the United States just doing the best that they can. And this is a picture of me holding my younger sister when $2 could buy you a lunch at a Chinese restaurant. After school, I would just take the bus from like Federal and Hampton all the way to Federal and 6th Avenue, where my parents had a Chinese restaurant. And I would work their register until 9 o'clock at night and answer the phone, took orders, and eventually started working all my way through college, working in their Chinese restaurant. Being ABC and firstborn in America also meant that I was first to go to college and finish. And I would challenge to have you ask yourself, what's your story? What challenges are you overcoming? And maybe you're not thinking of them as challenges, but you are going through whatever problems, whatever, not just the pandemic, but whatever you're experiencing will make you stronger. One of the first books I read was How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's an older book by Dale Carnegie. I read it when I was in college. That really kind of transformed the way I saw people, how I interacted with people. I read it once in college and once in medical school. And I even suggested it to the program director at St. Joe's. At the time, it was Dr. Jeff Clark, and he was so impressed by that, he felt that all the residents should read it, and he presented it at Ground Rounds. This was one of the first books that really taught people how to connect with people at the human level. And it wasn't really how to influence people or just change their minds about things, but just really to connect with people as individuals. And I think that's particularly important now, since humans are just glued to their addictive devices and with social media connecting us, but also keeping some distance as well. After I went to Colorado for undergraduate, Boulder specifically, and went to medical school in Denver on the Colorado Boulevard campus, I matched at UCLA for residency. And there I spent 3 years of anesthesiology resident. That was our last day. It's some of our class. That was a class of 22 at that time. And as anesthesiologists, we get to spend time in the operating room transfusing blood, doing procedures like intubating. And I even had the privilege of working in India doing medical missions. And this is where I work at occasionally as well. It's the All of You Medical Center. It is a teaching hospital county affiliated with UCLA. As healthcare providers, we're innately problem solvers. And I think every one of you are dealing with challenges and problems with patients or whatever it is. You're just kind of programmed. Okay, the hypertension, what do I do for hypertension? What do we do with this situation? And so that's kind of just innately our behavior. And I think that's what draws us to being in healthcare and in medicine specifically. When I was living in Colorado, I had a small little Yorkie. And of course, if you're still in Colorado or any place that snows, you realize that when you have a dog, you have to walk your dog. And one of the early challenges I saw as a problem was that I did not want to walk my dog when it was really cold and snowing outside. So I took a piece of sod I bought at the Home Depot, brought it up to my 5th floor apartment, and I would walk around collecting little bits of the urine and the grass that my dog had peed on, and then put it on that grass pad upstairs on my balcony. So I wouldn't have to walk my dog if I was on call, if it was really cold. And I basically made that porch potty premium for $280 20 years ago. And when I saw that being sold for like $200 at the pet shop, I'm like, oh my God, I had this idea. I didn't take any action on that. And I saw a similar kind of opportunity, if you will, with the preemptive analgesia that we provide in the perioperative setting. These are 2 Chinese characters called 尝试, and that means to try, or at least to try. In French, we could say essayons, or an essay. If anybody, I'm sure everybody can, essays is very similar in French. And at least it means to attempt. And this inspired me to try difficult things. If you don't try, you are certain to fail. If you do try, at least there is a chance for success. And that was kind of in the back of my mind as I saw that pee pad with the sod and with the preemptive analgesia. And I thought, okay, the worst thing is not failure. The worst thing is to not try. So I decided to launch the company that Dr. Keith mentioned, which was called Berries. The product launch eventually looked like this, Dr. Edna's Bare Ease. And I was taking my experience in problem solving with preemptive analgesia in the perioperative setting, which involved putting EMLA or numbing cream on the back of a child's hand for an IV placement beforehand, covering that skin with a Tegaderm, and then coming back a half an hour, 45 minutes later, and the skin would become numb. And I thought, why can't we just do that for the bikini area where people are waxing and lasering or any other part of the body? So I thought I would seize this opportunity and go back to my 尝试 or assayon and at least give that a chance. So what does it mean to launch a business? For me, that meant creating a product, media, publicity, So with the media tour, I was lucky enough to present in front of the editors at Glamour. We were featured in Time Out Chicago and a bunch of other glossy magazines, beauty magazines that probably would take quite some time to just share those with you. And that I really lucked out on that. And I even was featured in 5280, the magazine. It circulated in Denver and Colorado. So some of the other media I did was on the doctors. I had the privilege of presenting how an epidural is placed during a how to prepare yourself for a pregnancy. And the producers for the doctors was able to find this fancy mannequin made in Japan. They flew it over just for this segment that had inner spinous spaces. It had a fluid column. So if you had a wet tap, it was very realistic. The feel was really realistic. So I was able to present there, and also had a small guest feature on Dr. Oz when he was still on, but I will not torture you with that. And as I got more media and more publicity with things, I felt like that chicken, that rooster, like walking amongst flamingos. I'm like, okay, maybe people won't notice that I don't really know what's going on. And I had kind of I had the fear of having people think that I'm a fraud or imposter syndrome. So what if I fail? Like, what if this is not successful? And all this self-doubt talk kind of crept into my head. Now people are paying attention now. I've put on blast. I put myself on blast out there. But then what if I succeeded? That was also a concern too, right? Now you put a target on yourself, the tall poppy syndrome, they call it. But I just kind of faked it until I made it. But that didn't really sit right with me either. That didn't really jive. It wasn't congruent with kind of the way I like to think. So I did a positive reframe, and I called it leading with confidence. Now I'm kind of like owning the fact that I'm that rooster with the stilts. And I'm like, I don't know exactly what I'm doing, but I'm figuring it out along the way. And this is where I'm at. So how did I go from anesthesiologist at the hospital taking call, OB call, and then in the operating room doing AAAs to like Survivor Island, starving with the bikini on? So I was about 1 year into my business and had got a lot of media, and I was kind of getting overwhelmed. I thought, wouldn't it be really great to be on Shark Tank? This is, if anybody, if you don't know what that show is, it's like American Idol for startups and businesses. And you go in front of a panelist who, the sharks, they judge whether or not your business is worthy of funding. And I said, I live in LA, I should be creative, maybe 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. Somebody can introduce me to somebody and I can be presenting in front of the production team. So I posted it on social media. Can somebody please introduce me to somebody on Shark Tank or produce and whatever? I can just start asking questions. And I was told that they don't know when Shark Tank is filming, but they are casting for Survivor. So I thought, okay, this is great. I know it's a Mark Burnett production. I'm going to go to that casting. So I went to the casting. I told them everything they wanted to hear. Yes, I'm from Colorado. I love to camp. Who doesn't love to camp? I love to be outside. I've been in medical missions. I can MacGyver my way through any problem. So I told them everything they wanted to hear. It was like Tuesday, May 5th or something like that. And then by Thursday, Mark Burnett pulled me aside. And I was in front of the CBS executives, Jeff Probst. And I said, actually, I would like to be considered for Shark Tank. They were like, the air was sucked out of the room. The producers for CBS were looking around at each other. It's like, you are at a CBS casting for Survivor. This is the final casting for the show. And you basically have the balls to come in here and tell us you want to be on a different show, a different network, everything different. He's like, but I like your cojones. I like that you're so brave, your chutzpah. So Mark Burnett pulled me aside in the parking lot and said, I'm giving you a 1 in 18 chance right now to win $1 million in 6 weeks. You can know that if you win $1 million. And I'm like, oh, 1 in 18, that's pretty good chances. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, that 尝试 or assayon, at least if I try, I'll have at least 1 in 18 chance. If I say no, it'd be 0 in 18 chance, right? So I said to him, okay, he's like, you have 2 hours, make a decision. We leave in 2 weeks. So I called my husband. He was supportive of whatever decision I wanted to make. He didn't say no. But if Mark Burnett said to me, you have a 94% chance of not winning, you're going to spend 39 days without food and shelter, you're going to have loss of income, the job that you come back to may not be there, and who knows what kind of edit you may get at the end of the day. I may have said, oh, no, thank you. No, thank you. But I didn't. Mr. Burnett framed it, and you have a 1 in 18 chance of winning $1 million. And I thought that was better than 0 in 18. So I went ahead. 2 weeks later, I was on my plane. I wait on my way on a plane to Samoa. And I was going to say that reframing and positive reframing works in the perioperative setting as well. As anesthesiologists, sometimes we have to postpone cases. And this is a funny meme that came up right before the COVID pandemic. First anesthesiologist, surgeon general, cancels all elective surgery. And of course, that's really funny for anybody who works in the perioperative setting. And so if you say, Dr. Surgeon, you know, I'm not canceling your case. I'm not canceling your case. We're postponing until the patient is further optimized. That takes the shift off of anesthesia is canceling the case. Anesthesia. We don't even have names anymore. Anesthesia. And we're not canceling your case. We're just postponing, reframing until the patient is further optimized. That means the patient is now the first priority. Safety is first. So I like to use that positive reframing even at work. Anybody who knows me knows that survivor is not me. I don't like to be in the sun. I don't like, I like comfort, and I like to sleep in my bed. And I like SPF. I even have my SPF sleeves with me today. And on the survivor blogs, they wrote down, damn, Edna is a resourceful goddess. No one wants to align with her because she only made a bitch advisor for herself. Edna, visor making abilities. Well, who knows? Maybe that was the reason why I didn't win the $1 million, because I didn't make everybody else a visor. But I got an avatar with a visor on myself as well. I will say after 2 days out there, it is rough. You are out there, there's no Holiday Inn after the cameras turn off. In fact, the cameras never turn off. They're on there, you're on television 24 hours a day being recorded. The producers will sleep right next to you outside in your little hut or shelter. I wanted to quit after 2 days. I was like, oh my goodness, this is a big mistake. I was a well-paid physician. Now I'm out here with everybody trying to vote me out. And when I told them I wanted to quit, the producer says, you're not, even if you quit right now, day 2, you're still going to be marooned on this island till the game is finished filming. And that's going to be a minimum of 39 days. So either you are camping here in the game, you're still playing the game, or you're camping in a Kelty tent. So at that point, I decided to lean into my decision. I didn't want to be a quitter. I made my mind up that I wouldn't quit. I said my team would have to vote me out. I would win, or I got so sick that the production team would have to pull me out, but I was not going to quit. I also knew that the game was only 39 days max, and that 23 other seasons, there had been people who played the game and made it through. And so that kind of gave me psychological stamina to survive the rest of the Survivor game. So there I am, and I was the best at the worst at the time. I think somebody else actually holds the record at this point. I had the greatest number of votes casted against any female contestant until I played. And that means every tribal council, somebody was trying to vote me off. But that meant I was getting further into the game. And I don't call that being terrible. I call that having resilience. But eventually, my time had come. My torch was snuffed by Jeff Probst on day 32, and I was sent to Redemption Island the next day, but I did it smiling. And that was the end of my creative financing experience. So fast forward another year, I continued to run my business, and I was ready for Shark Tank. It continued to grow in success, and I was getting overwhelmed with everything that was coming my way. So I applied to Shark Tank the traditional way, and there's a traditional way, meaning just going online and looking for the application process. That year, there was over 70,000 applications, and only 1,300 segments were scheduled to film or had the opportunity to move forward in the production process. And of that, 500 to 700 segments aired. This is a picture of me right before I was entered the Shark Tank. I was nervous as heck. I had to go buy a lab coat. I don't own a lab coat. Under any other circumstances, if you're looking for venture capital money, you would never show up in your work attire. I wanted to wear a suit, but the producers would not allow that. So I had to run quickly to the nearest medical supply store and buy myself a white lab coat. How did I prepare for Shark Tank? I prepared for it in the same way I prepared for the MCAT and the USMLE. I watched every single episode of Shark Tank that was available, and I answered every single question that the sharks had asked, and answering in the context of my own in my own business. So I did all the sample exam, all the sample questions, all the sample tests that were out there. I was lucky enough that I got a spot right after lunch, because a lot of the contestants, they call us, if you ran over time, like sometimes they do, they just don't keep filming. They just reschedule you for the next season. So I appeared in front of the sharks, and they do what they call as a stare down. You have just one time to shoot everything. They have you walk down. They have the producers will say, go ahead. And then you walk down. There's no music. You don't hear any of that background music. You walk down onto your spot on that oriental rug. There's a piece of tape there. Then they do what they call a stare down, where the cameras are all moving and adjusting to the light, so it's to your height, and the sharks are just staring at you. They know not to speak, and you know not to speak for a whole minute while they're adjusting the lights and the camera heights. And it is the most awkward and the most horrifying minute of your life. It's like oral boards times 1,000. And then you hear the producer say, go ahead. And then you just have one chance to either knock it out of the park or humiliate yourself in front of 10 million people. So I knew that I wanted to entertain, because my product, given the nature of it, it's bikini, pubic hair, all that stuff, you have to make it humorous, otherwise it's just kind of creepy. So I wanted to make them laugh, and I certainly made Mark Cuban laugh. So one of the things I did is to give them samples to try out in the privacy of their own home. And I gave Mr. Wonderful a sample of the men's version called Numbnuts, which we had formulated in a blue tinge. So with spoiler alert, I did not get a deal on Shark Tank as well. And I was like, okay, that internal dialogue, oh, more self-doubt. And you get, actually, if I didn't say earlier, there's a psychologist and a psychiatrist that follow you through Survivor and Shark Tank. So people, it can be very emotional. You have like a little bit PTSD, rewinding, what could you have done better, that type of thing. There's that self-doubt creeping in. And my inner voice is saying, okay, gosh, I'm such a loser. I can't win Survivor, not winning Shark Tank. This is like, and you do have that. I did get a little PTSD for sure. But I had to remind myself that the deals on TV that close with a handshake, 70% of those deals never finalize. And that means 70% of those handshake deals that you don't see on TV never get funded. An example I like to give is my friend who I've gotten to know, called Show No Tell. She got a deal on TV. One of the sharks wrote her a check, and that check was, she carries it around with her. It was not a good check, but that's another presentation. So no deal on TV doesn't mean no deal on TV, but you were able to air, you got exposure, 10 million people are watching it. I was able to get a post Shark Tank deal. So I kind of reframed that for me. No does not mean defeat. This is Dallas. I was so lucky to air. Like I said earlier, there was a 1 in 3 chance that my segment could be aired, and I happened to be one of those lucky ones that aired that year. So I had over 30 plus investors reach out to me, and I was able to close a deal with a non-TV shark, and they helped structure, helped take over my business in terms of the logistics. I helped them create some new other product lines for some other business brands that they had, and we created a royalty arrangement. So even though I didn't win a deal on TV, I still ended up with an investor that fit my needs. So fast forward 5 years, I had kind of my priorities change. I had my little man, his name is Dean, and I had a little girl as well. And family became my big focus at this point. And family for me now is everything. This is taken last year before the pandemic really blew up in Singapore. And also last year before the lockdown, we were able to go on a Disney cruise and have their birthdays, and just wanted to make sure that they know that they're loved. I wanted to be a present parent. I love my nannies. They're so helpful to keep me mentally sane, but I wanted to be a present parent. So that forced me to kind of pivot. They're now my priority, and anybody who is out there who's a mom, they know it becomes your identity. You're no longer Dr. Ma, Edna. You are Dean's mom. And so, yes, you don't have the identity anymore. And so I kind of I leaned into that too. And so I call it pivoting, leaned into my new change of identity, and I created the book series Travel, Learn, and See. It's a bilingual English and Mandarin Chinese book. And it's inspired by my two children and their best friend, Ethan. I believe that representation matters and important for children to see themselves in books. And this for me was basically a rinse and repeat. Instead of the product berries, the product was now the books. And so try to grow media, bring attention to the publicity. And one of the ways I was able to do that was with the beautiful testimonial I got from Lisa Ling, who I shared the book with her two daughters. One of the books I read as well, actually right after I was voted off a survivor, was the book called The Secret. And The Secret, if you haven't heard about it, is a self-help book that focuses on the power of positive thinking. And she writes that if you send out likes, like attracts like. So that means if you emit positive energy will come back to you. And another way I kind of translate this is like having a bit of accountability. I like to tell people what I'm doing. I tell my friends, you know, hey, I'm going to the gym. Now I have to be kind of accountable for that. Like if I didn't go to the gym, they might ask me about how embarrassing it is to say I slept in. And I tell my staff and everything, and I get to know my staff too. And one time I was doing a case with Dr. Cohen, and he's the host of Gross Anatomy podcast, and it's sort of a hybrid of entertainment and surgery. And he's the general surgeon at Cedars-Sinai. And one day I had the privilege of taking care of one of his patients. He's like, what's up? What are you doing these days, Edna Ma? And I said, well, it's interesting that you asked. I'm writing these children's books. And he says, that's very interesting. And I told him I would love to see these children's books like be transformed into an animated series like Dora the Explorer meets Rick Steves. And he says to me, that's very interesting because I went to high school with an executive that works for Netflix now, and he's in charge of the Asian territory content acquisition. So I'm like, you got to put me in touch with your friend. And so he put me in touch with his friend. You never know who those 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon are. So I just tell my friends, I tell whoever has, and you know, the surgeons in the operating room, it's not like they can leave anytime soon. They're kind of stuck with you. So I take advantage of that. Finally, I would just want to kind of circle back and say, you know, what is that mountain that you're climbing? What are the challenges that you are overcoming, or opportunities that you're facing? And are you telling yourself that they're challenges or they're opportunities? I would suggest that you embrace and lean into those challenges. And when you get to the top of that mountain, you can look down and see that you did that. You accomplished all those goals, and enjoy the journey along the way. This is my email address, and I just want to thank you for your time and attention. And this is information about the alumni page. I'll hand my baton back to Dr. Keefe.
That was great, Dr. Ma. Oh, can you hear me okay now?
Yes, I can.
Great.
I can.
That was, I was taking notes feverishly. I
It's
thought
so
that
sweet.
was really, really great. Oh, that was just excellent. So let's look in our question box here and see what we can find. Let's see here. Okay, let's see if we can find. Okay, let's see here.
I am gonna have to like minimize my
Yeah.
screen a little bit so I
So
can read this.
we have someone that said they love the name of your products. And they said they nearly died laughing at the numbnuts. So please tell us about the creative genius around these names.
Okay, I see. Is it Jiren Bryant? So thank you so much for the question. I feel like those are just very natural. Like, and again, I'm like crowdsourcing my ideas and the brains. And so when I tell people about my ideas, they're just giving me ideas. And so it's like, oh my God, this would be so brilliant. It's just like numbing your nuts. And you know, I feel like you have to add humor. And I feel like this is something that I learned from reading How to Win Friends and Influence People, because other people may have better ideas than you. And I was just literally just telling my ideas to everybody. And one of the things that I said in my my final casting for Survivor, when I was in front of everybody, and I said to the executives of CBS, I said, I wanted to be on Shark, a different show, a different network. I said, the numbnuts can be used to, help you trim the hedge so your tree looks taller. Oh my God, they just fell out of their chair. And so that got me sent to the Survivor Island like right away.
That is really good. Now, one of our good friends who works over at the university had a question saying, looking back, would you do Survivor again? And did it help you get to where you are now?
Would I do Survivor again? So I get this question a lot, and I go between like, oh no, there's no reason for me to play that again. And my sister and I actually got called back for casting for Blood versus Water. And if you're familiar with this show, that particular season is that half the cast members are blood relatives to the original, like returning cast members. And we didn't get casted because my sister apparently is, quote, not relatable. The whole show is narrated by the show is narrated by the cast members, and my sister is a lecturer, and so she came off as a bit maybe condescending, or like a little bit like a mom, I'm not gonna say mama hen, a little unrelatable is what the producer said. So we didn't actually get casted. But before the quarantine, I would have said, no, there's no way I would go back. But like last week, I'm like, get me, I want to go back to Survivor Island. I need to get away from my family. So I go between both. So I'm kind of embarrassed to say that.
That sounds good. We all feel like we're in Survivor right now, huh? So
I'm ready to go back. Just anybody but my family right now would be great.
There you go. Well, let's see. Another question that just came is, how do you stay calm in high pressure situations?
Oh goodness. So I feel like it helps that I'm an anesthesiologist. And so I've already been kind of trained to get used to that high adrenaline situation where maybe the SHTF, and I've already kind of accustomed to that and operating on that. And so, but I would say it's very nerve wracking still. I did take a beta blocker for my, the most recent time that I was on the Doctors TV show back in January, and for Shark Tank too. But then at least that internal dialogue is like, what if I'm over sedated and I come across drugged? So I don't know, I'm kind of vacillating between seeming somewhat manic versus like too calm and lackadaisical. But I would say just because I had some anesthesia training, and beta blockers help.
But not too much, right? Okay.
Not too much, and you have to have a licensed professional prescribe it, of course.
There you go. Don't leave it up to the amateurs. So another person commented, said, Dr. Ma, you've accomplished so much. What's next?
Gosh, that's hard. I'm just trying to figure out what I'm doing tomorrow. And so, but I am kind of sending out my positive universe, the secret vibe out there for an animated children's series book. And so growing the feedback I got from the Netflix executive was that I'm still too early. So just to close the loop on that communication, he did get me in touch with the Netflix executive and said that he loves the concept and everything, but it's still too early, that I don't have like the following of like Captain Underpants or something. That's like a built-in audience. So here are my 2 books. I don't know if you can see that. And I'm working on the 3rd. That should be out before the end of the new year, hopefully. And I'm just open. I just keep an open mind. Honestly, at this point, a lot of people come to me with ideas, and I look at everything, especially, it's coming from one of my Colorado alumni people.
Oh, very good. Well, you will always be one of us. And again, one of the attendees said, it's an incredible story. Thank you for making us laugh. We really appreciate that. And another question coming in, what advice would you give to someone dealing with imposter syndrome?
Yeah, okay, I still kind of dealing with that myself. It's like, okay, it feels uncomfortable, and that uncomfortable feeling is just like, okay, just kind of, you just know that you're not alone. And there's so much more information out there now that women, especially professional women, just have this imposter syndrome. Um, and there are other resources that you can go to. And I would just say it's more of a, for me, I would like to say I'd like to keep the imposter syndrome, not keep the imposter syndrome, but know that, be aware of it. But I'd rather have that imposter syndrome and recognize it's there than to be like overconfident and arrogant. That's just my personal way that I'm handling it. And so sometimes I may seem like I hedge a lot. It's just because I'm kind of recognizing that, I don't have all the answers, and that's okay. And to say that you don't have the answers and saying, I don't know, I can get back to you. I'm going to look that up and I'll find a better answer. I feel like that's a perfectly acceptable answer.
That's very helpful. Yeah. And I wondered, can you give some advice to people about that work-life balance?
Yes, yes, that is it's constantly in flux because your life is constantly changing. I would say that try to figure out what's your priority. Is it that you, let's say for example, you really love putting in A lines, interventions, obstetric anesthesia. Let's say that that's your love. Then you can structure your life so you can do maybe call once a week, because those calls are usually 24 hours. So you have the rest of the week or whatever amount of time. For me, that was prioritizing being home on a daily basis, not being at the hospital. I wanted to make sure that I was there as much as I could. So I shifted my career focus to outpatient only. And I've really, I really love going to work at this point because I'm not all one time, one place, and it's like it gets redundant. So it's like a respite from my home life, and going to work is like my little carnival cruise away from my family, and it gives me a lot of a lot more satisfactions in some ways, because they're appreciative of you coming to work and helping you get through these cases, and so people are having surgery at the end of the day and having the healthcare that they need. And I think that's what ultimately drew me to anesthesia too. I felt like I was part of a healthcare team.
Mhm. That sounds great. It's just so much to absorb all this great, all these great tidbits that we are seeing.
Last thing I'll say, because I see that the person who's asking is also a woman. I would say that don't be afraid to ask for help. You're not the only one who's going through all this. Don't be afraid to ask for help. It's not a sign of weakness, because you are only one person, and only one person can do. Like, so whatever it is for you need help with, is it just cooking, or like outsource it, prioritize and outsource. You're the CEO of your house. You're the CEO of your momming and work. And so you have to delegate. So you cannot do everything. So prioritize and delegate, and don't be ashamed of that.
Do you think it's different for female and male professionals?
100%, because like you're just stuck based on your physiology, right? Because you're the one at the uterus and the reproductive bits. And even after I had my kids, like anybody who's nursed their kids before, like, okay, I'm feeling engorged, I need to go pump. And then a message goes off to the nanny, the baby's going to be hungry. Oh, I'm feeding the baby, whatever it is, so like you're just, even though you're not connected to your kid anymore, the umbilical cord's not there anymore, but you're still physiologically connected. Like you feel your milk coming in, and you're just like, the mother nature gave you all that stuff for keeping the species thriving, right? But I would say that compared to my husband, it was much easier because he's not physically attached and has those chemicals telling them that their kid is hungry.
Well, very good. Now, here's another question. Is there anything that you would have done differently on your journey, and any other lessons that you've learned?
Yes. So that's a very tough question too for me. And I would say that I used to answer that question. There was nothing that I would have done different. I'm satisfied with it the way that I'm satisfied with the way things were done. But then I found that it's very kind of unsatisfying. As a person who's asking that question, he's like, that is not a satisfactory answer. And so, so I feel like there, of course, like on Survivor, there's a bunch of things I I could have rewinded and played differently. I should have been more active as a contestant. I was like such a passive contestant. I let the game play me rather than me play the game. And so I was like, okay, I'm here. I'm going to lay low. I'm going to lay low and just kind of stay out of the target range. But, I feel like I could have been a little bit more proactive because I was the one who was getting voted out all the time. I was just and I didn't think I had a target on my back. So I think I could have done that better. With Shark Tank, I feel like I honestly got the best kind of combination. I got the exposure, and then I got to pick one of 30 plus investors. That really worked well. I would say that there's probably some nuances in the contract that I could probably had worked a little bit better. And it took me a while to realize that, my brand as Dr. Edna's Bare Ease, like Mark Cuban is his own brand. He's like the, sports guy. He doesn't want me talking about pubic hair. Barbara Corcoran is the food truck person, and nobody wants to be talking about pubic hair. Okay. So I realized that they are their own brand. And so why would they want to affiliate me with their brand for a company that was only making like $40,000 a year? It's like their time is too valuable for that. So after I kind of reframed it like that, I said, okay, I get that. This is basically the best outcome that I could have had. So at immediately right afterwards, I'm like in my trailer crying. Why isn't anybody picking me? I'm such a loser. Like, what did I say wrong? I should have told them that I was on Survivor. Barbara Corcoran was so mean to me. She said, it doesn't seem like you're trying hard enough to make your business work. And I felt that was a slap in the face, and I was about to cry, but I tried to maintain my composure. And I think, thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate your time. And I think that maintaining my composure and respect for the sharks of the show got me those investors. But if I started losing it, maybe I wouldn't have had a different outcome. But I wanted to say to them, I wanted to tell Barbara, I said, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I was on Survivor for over a month, and you're telling me I'm not trying hard enough? But because it was a different network, the production team told me, if you mention this other network or this other show, your segment will be unusable. So the whole time, between airing, when you're filming, which I filmed in July, and the segment aired in October, that whole time you're just replaying the segment, and you recorded for 45 minutes, and you're just have PTSD. I should have said this, I should have said that. And for 45 days, you're just, those 5 months or whatever, you're just telling yourself you should have done something different. But now I've given enough time, and I've had a little distance, and I kind of reframed it for myself. I feel like this is the best situation for me at the time and at this time.
That sounds wonderful. And any additional, your children are quite young, but besides your whole talk, but any additional advice you would tell students, say, before they're at college age?
Before college age, the college age, I would say, don't forget to just take care of yourself as well. And that means could be exercise and prioritizing sleeping. And it's easy to, put in another hour studying, that type of thing. Your overall health is a very important priority, and don't let that slack.
Very good. Great. So any other questions?
I'm happy to answer any production questions if anybody wants to. I know a lot of people like production questions, and the behind the scenes, I get a lot of those sometimes.
Very good. Oh, that sounds good. Well, definitely you have the information to get a hold of Dr. Ma,
Yeah.
and I think that's going to be very helpful. So I think that's great. Well, this has been just so much food for thought, I think. So we may start into our closing remarks here, but we have a way to get a hold of you, and I think this is going to be very good. So I do thank everyone for joining us and taking this time this evening. It's been just very very inspiring. So I hope that everyone will be able to join us again at our, we have 2 wonderful events coming up. So please mark your calendar. The first event, and we don't have a slide about this, is December 2nd, December 2. And this would be the healthy humorist, Dr. Brad Nieder. You can look online about some of his excellent humor, which humor is the best medicine. Yes, I believe that. He is from the class of 2000, and he is in the Denver area, and he is very funny. So December 2nd, Dr. Brad Nieder, the healthy humorist. So, please look at how you can register for that night. And then our next in a series is December 9th, featuring CU College of Nursing alum Kat Golden. So join Kat for a motivational talk that will utilize a teaching tool that will inspire you to find the good in any situation. Learn how to find happiness without your situation changing. And now don't forget to connect with us on Instagram and to check out stories about your fellow alumni at our newly launched CU Anschutz Alumni LinkedIn group, which focuses on professional development. And I believe there's a slide there that tells you how to connect with us on LinkedIn and Instagram. Those will be really great. So I thank you so much for tuning in and for all that you do as healthcare professionals for your campus and community. And we'll see you at one of our events soon. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great evening.